What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of my Trailblazers podcast, where I have another guest with me today. His name's Aidan Wong. Aidan is an amateur boxer with 6 fights and three exhibition fights as well. So he's had in total about 9 fights. He's the owner of AWS Boxing, which is his boxing training brand, where he coaches his clients one-on-one. And he also PTs out of stand-up boxing. By day, he's actually working in the corporate world. And before his day job and after his day job, he coaches people how to fight as well as training himself. Now, guys, the reason why I wanted to bring Aidan on is because, one, I'm a combat fanatic and I like boxing. But the second thing is, I wanted you to hear from someone who is in the fight game, but also involved in what you would consider to be just everyday life, like a corporate job. So, Aidan, welcome to my podcast.
Thank you, Phil. Appreciate the awesome introduction there.
You're welcome, man. Well, it's all true, right?
Yeah, I guess so.
So, Aidan, one of the questions that really intrigued me about you is that you work corporate 9 to 5, but then you also have a busy coaching schedule before and after. So could you just tell me a typical day? What are you doing?
Yeah, okay. So on a busy day where I do have clients, say, scheduled for the mornings, I usually go do my PTs first thing in the morning at the gym, open up at the gym, pump out a few clients, and then go straight into the office. So from there, I leave my car at the gym. That's like after I've done like maybe a quick session at the gym before I go to work. Then I take the train into the office in the city, get changed at work, shower, all that, do the 9 to 5, and then from there leave, take the train back, and then just get changed at the gym, and then do the class at the gym. But that's like maybe a few nights at most of the week. Other nights when I don't have clients in the morning, I'll be working from home as well. So I go into the office like twice a week. So I've kind of set it up where I've made my clients coincide with the days that I go into the office. So usually I'd work from home on the days that I don't have clients and I'm not going to the city. So from there, when I work from home, it would usually be like a lunchtime training session, go back, jump online again, meetings.
Well,
are
you getting paid for are you getting paid for those ones, or are you like doing a bit of a dodgy?
What do you mean, like
you know how sometimes they do like a paid lunch break?
Oh,
and
yeah.
Then and then you go train?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, 100%.
Or like sometimes there's like a meeting, and then you just put your screen on not listening, but you leave your earphones on so you know if they're asking you something, but you're actually training.
Well, I can't lie. I've definitely done that before. Many times.
Yeah, so you leave your speakers off so that sometimes they accidentally hear you go. Like, Aidan, what are you doing?
Look, man, I always make sure my microphone's on mute, so I've got to be very careful about that.
Yeah. And you're all good, right? For the purposes of this podcast, you have always not done any training while you're on paid hours.
Exactly. But
so, I mean, it sounds like a pretty busy schedule. Oh, sorry, go on, yeah.
Oh, no. Like when we do, just in general, like the good thing about my office is they've got a blocked out time for lunchtime. So like 12 to 1. It's just blocked out on everyone's calendar. Everyone's allowed to have lunch or do whatever they want.
Okay.
So I might use that time, go for a run or something, and then eat during meetings. So that's when that's when I'd have my camera off, or like sometimes just be like, sorry guys, finishing lunch, that kind of shit.
Okay, got it. So it sounds like a pretty busy schedule sometimes.
Yeah, 100%.
What keeps you in that for boxing in particular? Like, why do you like training people so much in boxing? And then also, as an extension, why do you like boxing in general?
I can start with why I like boxing in general. So I've done martial arts like for a while, since I was in high school. My dad was actually an instructor, so I did actually started with the Chinese martial art called Wing Chun.
Oh shit, yeah, Ip Man.
Yeah, Hitmanship, bro. So I did that for quite a while. Um, not too seriously at first, and then Ip Man came out, and I watched that, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to start training more. I
Okay.
got pretty into it after watching that, and yeah, so I had experience with like, throwing punches, throwing kicks, um, drills of like defending against attacks and stuff. And then we occasionally sparred as well, which was really good. But I found that there wasn't enough like sparring or that kind of like real combat simulation in that kind of martial art. So eventually I went to try like kickboxing and jiu-jitsu, wrestling. I just went to an MMA gym and tried it all. So I did that for a while, went overseas for exchange. So I paused training for a bit, then came back. And I'm like, oh, you know what? I'm just gonna sharpen my hands. And because I saw my mate do boxing on Instagram, and he had a few fights. I'm like, oh, that's pretty sick. I want to do that. And then I went to his gym, which was stand up. And then I never really left. Like I just kind of fell in love with the sport because there's so much detail to it. There's a lot of like layers of technique and like detail to the art itself that I didn't really find when I was trying the other sports, or maybe it was just the practitioners or the teachers. They didn't really go into the detail of like the defenses, all that. I'm sure it's at the same level of detail with other combat sports as well. But I don't know, I just kind of got deep into boxing and I really loved it.
Do you ever have that conversation with your dad, like where they'll say, "Oh yeah, but in Wing Chun we would poke their eyes out before we do any of this, or we would snap their knees before they do any of this because Chinese martial art is really dangerous."
Oh yeah, we've definitely had a lot of those conversations in the past.
What do you
Not as
say?
much, huh?
What do you say?
Um, I'd just say like I just think you guys need to spar more because
Oh,
that's
you
gonna.
betray the bloodline.
Yeah, I mean, just in general, like it's like, yeah, definitely sparring more will let you know what is actually effective and what isn't, and then it's also just like that fight fitness. You know what I mean? When you've never been in like when you've never really sparred much before, it's pretty it's very different, right? Like,
Very different.
yeah, like
So
I
when
remember the first time I sparred,
yeah, what happened? Tell me.
I got bashed.
Was this in
I
boxing?
got nah. Oh well, in boxing too, but just in general, like, the first time I sparred was in high school in my garage. So what's it called? Me and my mates, we just like put on gloves.
Yeah.
They're like, "Oh, he knows martial arts. He's gonna smash us." But then like the adrenaline hits when you actually like get hit with a sword flush hit, and then like the martial arts went out the window. So then
Yes.
it was pretty
Started doing the
embarrassing.
takedown in MMA.
Yeah, it just got messy.
Yeah,
It's just
yeah,
a bit embarrassing,
yeah. I find it's the detriment of a lot of traditional martial arts. You know, I have a lot of respect for any traditional martial art, karate, taekwondo, Wing Chun, Kung Fu, whatever.
Mm.
But it's like you say, when you get into even just 70% level sparring, if you never experience what that's like, half the techniques they show you never work ever because the speed's just too quick.
Mm. And not to say that I don't have respect for martial arts either.
Yeah.
I feel like martial arts have their place as well. And there's definitely aspects of martial arts that you could take that would work in sparring. It's just about trying it out, right, in sparring, which some may not do as much, which is why they haven't really figured out which part of the techniques would actually work. You know what I mean?
Mm.
Like I've definitely found some moves from Wing Chun I've used in boxing before, for sure. So
Is it legal?
yeah, just like certain arm blocks, shit that would be like considered like super advanced boxing techniques that you see like some pros use. That's like very developed. It's like, oh, that looks a lot like Wing Chun or like Kung Fu.
Yeah. It's sometimes just a different label,
Mm.
Sometimes, and sometimes you start doing stuff that just makes sense when you fight enough, when you spar enough. Like sometimes, when you do, there's certain blocks, right? But then sometimes you accidentally fumble upon like a high elbow block.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you do it and you think, what the hell? That worked really well. But then you don't even know the name for it because it came up for you by itself.
Exactly.
Yeah, so that then people are like, oh, but that's a move in Hapkido, or oh no, that's a defense in boxing. Like guys, it's the one body, it's the same. So it's just the move.
Yeah, that's an interesting way to look at it.
Yeah. When you experience outside of Wing Chun, you went to your MMA gym, kickboxing, and how did that change your perception of fighting?
I don't know if it changed my perception because it started changing once I started sparring, like even just in the garage. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So the garage was like the first change of perception for sure. Like that time when I got beat up by my friends after like getting hit with a sword shot and then like all technique going out the window. And then from there, it just kind of, I started sparring a lot more. Like even after that, I started sparring with my dad to like try and have a rematch with my mate.
Okay.
And then I sparred my mates more, and then like improvement came just from sparring more and like actually able to apply the techniques that I learned, or some of the techniques that I learned. Then I started sparring with other mates from high school in the backyard. So I think I got a little bit more used to that realm of it. And then once I like jumped into MMA or like doing kickboxing and stuff, I was like, oh yeah, this is kind of what I expected.
Yeah. You guys had what, a fight club down there or something? You seem like you sparred a lot in your backyard.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it was like a fight club. It's just like, some boys fucking around.
Yeah, we've all done that.
Yeah, I feel like most guys that I know have like had some kind of fight club in their basement or like in their backyard or something. I mean, have you before?
Not in my house. Oh, actually, no, that's a lie. I've got a little mini gym in the granny flat where we come and spar. When I was a teenager, yeah, we experimented, but it wasn't that common for me. Although I have had a few, just you fuck around with mates. You just throw pillow hands at each other. 16-ounce gloves. No one can actually punch.
It was like that.
Yeah, right. Yeah, right. So when did you decide to actually start competing in boxing?
It's probably like a year and a half in. I'm like, yeah, my friend, one of my teammates was like going pretty hard with competing. I'm like, oh yeah, well, should give it a go as well, which took me a while to get into the ring when my coach decided I was ready. And yeah, did that. I don't know, I think it was just always something I wanted to do, like I wanted to try getting in the ring. and like since high school. I think I've always had that inclination because I thought fighting was cool.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Fighting, like, to me, fighting is cool. It still is cool.
Oh yeah, it
Yeah.
definitely is for
I
sure.
mean, I think to us it's cool, but the distinction is I don't think it's cooler than other people. But I just think for me it's cool. It's a fun thing. It's beautiful. It's technical. It's for me it's the pinnacle. For me it's the pinnacle sport. Combat in any form,
I agree.
except jiu-jitsu.
Oh, let's not upset some people.
It's all right, man. Even jiu-jitsu people agree with me. Even my mates who are jiu-jitsu people, I say, look, I'm not saying that the art isn't effective, okay? I'm saying I have the utmost respect for the art. But when you can start the competition by sitting on your bum and scooting your bum across the mat to initiate a fight, sorry, guys, doesn't do it for me, man. It really doesn't.
Oh yeah, well I definitely tried it before as well, and I reckon I would eventually go back and like be trained in the grappling arts. What I just didn't like was like the hygiene aspect of it.
Oh, mate.
That's also why I like boxing, because you're kind of in your own space, sweating in your own sweat,
Yeah,
and like you feel clean,
cleaner.
cleaner at least, like in
Yeah.
your own like little bubble. But
Yeah, dude, the reason I quit jiu-jitsu was because, not quit actually, I quit gi jiu-jitsu because I was rolling as a white belt. I was rolling with this guy and he had me in north-south position and I was on the bottom. So his ass was basically on my face. You know what I mean?
yeah,
And this bloke smelled, man. And I just remember thinking to myself, I'm paying for this. This is a joke. I shouldn't, no, I'm not doing this. So I just left.
yeah, right. No, I get where you're coming from, man. That's exactly why I wasn't really into it.
When your coach said to you, you're ready, what were you thinking? But also, what was he looking for before he let you step in there?
I was really happy. I was like, when I went, I was like celebrating, and he was at the time he was definitely a lot more, what's it called, conservative with letting people fight. But I think he was looking for how you do in sparring, how you can keep your form, your technique, when you're tired, and how you go when you spar people from other gyms as well. So I think he's just looking for like solid, strong fundamental technique, the will to fight, and being able to be like over prepared. So he would also really push you hard in training. Yeah, I'd say those were the main things for like the first fight.
Mm-hmm. That's very different to my own experience. So you were happy. My experience was more, I'm terrified. When I trained for my kickboxing debut at the matches, and I needed that reassurance. Like, am I ready? Am I ready? And my coach kept saying to me, yeah, you're ready. Trust me, you're ready. You're ready. You're ready. But I kept thinking to myself, am I? Like, am I really? And I never had that, oh my God, I'm so glad I can fight. I never had that. I was just always thinking, I'm doing it because I want to scare myself. I want to experience it, but I don't feel good about doing this. I never had, even my full contact Muay Thai one. My coach was telling me, the Thai coach was telling me this whole time, you're going to be fine. You're going to be fine. You're a good fighter. You're going to be fine. But all throughout, I just kept thinking to myself, why are you doing this? Why are you doing this? You're not ready. Why are you doing this? Why are you doing? But you get in there and then something takes over and you can compete. But I just never, it's just funny. I never had what you just talked about.
I definitely left that part out. I was definitely filled with anxiety and doubt, and I still am when I compete, like, to this day.
Okay.
So at that time, though, when, like, as soon as he told me, I remember going to my car being like, "Fuck yeah!" I was like really happy, just because, like, I was deemed ready to jump in a ring. But I was definitely feeling very, like, well, towards my, oh no, yeah, okay. So I was very nervous in the lead up, like in the weeks leading up to it. And so the closer I got, for some reason I wasn't feeling as nervous, but then on the day I was very nervous. And even before I jumped in the ring, I was super nervous. And that caused me to really have like this big adrenaline dump where I just went hard like in the first round and then gassed out by like the second half of the second round. So then, yeah, that caused me to lose my first fight.
Was it one? Was
After,
it a really like was it really exhaustion thing? How you lost that first fight?
yeah, by the third round, I was like doing this, like I was in a boxer size class.
Oh no.
Yeah, yeah. So it was pretty bad. It was a pretty bad first fight for sure, but good learning, you know.
Mm.
Then, so then it took me a little bit of time to get back in the ring again, to be honest. But I got back in after fighting many demons.
Oh,
And
was it demons relating to the first fight?
yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Do you mind elaborating on what those were?
Um, it was a mix of things. Like, first of all, I was questioning why I even like wanted to fight in the first place. Why it was affecting me so much that I'd lost my first fight. I'm like, am I just doing this to try and like impress people? And did that stem from, you know, an upbringing of like lower confidence back in high school when I wasn't too confident, um, and like would be kind of frozen in any kind of like conflict situation or confrontation. So I think it was just trying to like prove to myself and other people around me that I wasn't a coward, you know what I mean, and that I could act in that situation. So in my first fight, I invited all my friends, like invited everyone, just for that to happen, and that was like an extra big like crash, you know what I mean? So it was just a lot of questioning myself, questioning why I was doing it as well. Did I have the wrong reasons and intention? Did I identify with the sport purely because I wanted to be respected more? And yeah, it was just a whole lot of that, battling with my own like ability as well. Like, oh, am I like, I lost a fight, I'm shit cunt, all that shit. So yeah, it was just a lot of getting through that. And like, I could have, there was probably a point where I was probably not going to fight again. Where I was just like, yeah, fuck it, like it's easy to just leave that in the past and like move on to the next chapter. But yeah, I felt like if I did that, that would have just been a bit of a monkey on my shoulder for a while. So yeah, eventually I got back in there, like maybe a year and a half later or something, or 2 years. And then yeah, that was a lot better. That was a lot better of a situation where I managed to get the win for that fight.
When you were doing that deep soul searching, what conclusion did you come to?
Yeah, I feel like I was definitely externally motivated.
How old were you at this time?
I think I was like 23.
Okay.
23, around there. So yeah, I was externally motivated, not intrinsically motivated. I felt like I had to kind of put my head down and just do it for me rather than other people or other people's validation.
Oh, so
So
you were able to identify that part of the reason for you signing up for that first fight was for the validation of others.
Yeah, 100%. That's what I think. And yeah, so then for the second fight, I invited no one, just like close friends or like my training partners that helped me get through that. And yeah, it was really good just having close people there, and like the guys that were with me through the trenches, like having them there to support as well was really good. And yeah, and then I just was able to flow like I was inspiring, compared to the first fight where I like tried to blow through the guy and like knock him out in the like first round.
Yeah. But it's quite hard to knock out someone in an amateur bout, right? Because it's the gloves are bigger, the headgear, everything.
Mm-hmm.
Have you had your friends come since that fight?
Yeah, I've had a few friends come for my latest one. Also clients and like again closer training partners as well. I have invited like other close friends outside of training to some of my fights. I definitely haven't done the whole invite everyone I know though, like I did in the first one. I just didn't find the need to do that anymore.
Yeah. So it's almost like that first fight gave you that wake up call. Like you don't need to do this for anyone except yourself.
Yeah, exactly, man. Exactly. I think that's what.
In the second time, what is your reason now for continuing to box?
Yeah, it's more so just it's a mix of things, right? Like obviously the physical and mental fitness and strength that it gives you. I find that nothing really comes close to the workout and the high that you get from something like sparring as well. And it's such a varied, there's so many variables in something like sparring, right? It's not like a set routine or match or something like that. Like anything can happen in sparring. It's up to you to adapt. You've got to be able to react to the different stimulus that you're provided with in like a fight, like a sparring, because you don't know what your sparring partner is going to do. So that makes it exciting, but also it's also more so like the overcoming of, say, my anxiety or fear that I might face in the lead up to something like going to sparring with people that I don't know, or like jumping into a fight, you know, the unknown. It's more so overcoming that and becoming more confident in myself through overcoming that. So it's more so the personal growth that it brings. So I'd say, yeah, I'm not really, by nature, I wouldn't say I'm like one of those bloodthirsty fighters, you know. I'm just more so in it for the journey, and I really enjoy the growth that comes out from putting yourself in an uncomfortable situation, like fighting, stepping in the ring. Yeah,
I can definitely relate to what you're saying. Especially sometimes even just turning up to a hard sparring session. You know you're going to go to spar hard. And even though you might know these training partners, you also know they can punch really hard, they can kick really hard. They're not going to let up on you, and you're driving there thinking, I'm choosing to do this.
Yeah,
what an idiot.
Yeah. And it's just like feeling those nerves, but still being able to act in spite of them, you know?
Yeah.
Having the control over that feels good.
Do you think you were a anxious person before boxing?
Yeah, I think so. I still think I am a little bit, but definitely better.
Yeah.
Definitely better.
Yeah. What's the most anxious moment you've had in boxing so far?
definitely, definitely before I jump in the ring, like before I jump in for a fight, because your body's just preparing for it. It's preparing for war. It's like it's the other guys coming to try and hurt you as well. So it's a totally different feeling. It's kind of, I don't know. I don't know how to describe it, but you just feel very anxious, but then it's also like a bit of calm washes over you if you've put in the work and you trust in the work. I'd say, yeah, but I'd say it's usually before a fight or before like a hard sparring, especially with other gyms where you don't know the person. So it's usually when you're about to go hard with someone you don't know.
Yeah, it's always that you don't know.
Yeah.
Like sometimes they look mean, they got a mean mug. And then you start sparring and you think, hold on a minute, it's not that bad.
Yeah, 100%. It's always worse in your head.
Yeah, but the crazy thing is they're thinking about the same thing of you. Well, you just don't know.
Yeah, that's true. That is true. So easy to forget that.
Yeah. What's been your hardest fight so far?
I've had a few hard fights. So each fight, so other than like, say the first one that I said I lost, the others that I've lost have been in finals in the tournaments. And I feel like in those situations, there's this extra pressure that maybe I put on myself because it's like a finals, that I'm like, fuck, like I'm just in my head a little bit more. And then that will cause me to gas out a lot quicker. It'll cause me to, what's it called? I feel like spiral a little bit, like in the ring. You know what I mean? So it has been those situations where I've been in the finals in the tournament, and I would spiral in my head a little bit towards the point where I'd kind of gas. And then that would cause really hard fights that should not be that hard. You know what I mean?
And then you spiral some more.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's a bit of a cycle, mate.
Yeah, it's so mental though, man. I understand. It's so mental. The mental side, you gas a bit, you feel a bit tired, then you're stressed out because you're feeling tired already.
Yeah.
And then your opponent starts to put on a bit more pressure, and you're thinking to yourself, I shouldn't be falling for these. I shouldn't be getting hit by these.
I know, man. That's exactly what it was. Yeah.
I'm better than this.
Yeah, man. Exactly.
So how have you overcome that? Or if you haven't, how do you manage that now?
I still say I'm working on that to this day, man.
Yeah.
100%. Like, I wouldn't say I've overcome it. I'd say I just need to, the way to overcome that would probably just be more experience, just being more active, realizing that it should also just be a fight as well, not just because it's a finals that I put extra pressure on myself that I shouldn't. And I feel like just getting the reps out would help with that a lot. But yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say I'm that active within that regard to have gone to the point where I've overcome it.
Is boxing a very frequent fighting sport? Like, is it normal to fight, say, once a month or once every 2 months?
For the really active fighters, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, like people who are trying to, go to nationals, eventually turn pro. They're just trying to get as many fights under their belt as possible in amateurs. So then you see some really active fighters who might be fighting twice a month, a few times a month even. Yeah, there are some pretty active boxers out there.
Are you planning on going down that route?
Sometimes I'm like, yeah, I do want to go down that route, and then sometimes I'm like, no, not really. I'm a little bit back and forth.
Okay. What's keeping you from making a strong decision on either?
Well, it's a mix. It's like it depends. I feel like it's either what sacrifices am I willing to make to go down that path. Sometimes I feel like it's not worth it with the returns that I might be able to get at this point. But then sometimes I'm like, I love this sport, I love the feeling that it brings me as well, that I should go for bigger goals. So I'd feel like, yeah, it's a little bit of a back and forth internally with myself of like, do I really want to go through that? Because I know what it takes, and like through the multiple fights I've had so far, the pain that you have to go through to be ready to jump in the ring against someone who's going to also come to try and take your head off. And sure, maybe it's an overreaction, and in the times when it has been an overreaction, it's been an easy fight, which is a positive situation, right? But yeah, sometimes I'm just not always ready to give that sacrifice. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, I hear you, man. I hear you. I did that fight camp for 2 weeks in Thailand, and I've been training a lot prior to that, but I thought, man, every single day I've got to do this twice a day for like 6 days a week. Plus, I got to go running on my own.
Yeah.
Can I really be bothered for this if I was a pro? If I was a pro, do I really want to do this 6 days a week, every single week for the next, let's just go with the next 2-3 years when you're first starting off as a pro? Like, would I really want to do this? And the answer is not really.
Yeah.
Not really, man.
Yeah, man. I mean, that's the same with me. Sometimes I'm just like, not really. And then sometimes I'm like, that'll be sick.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Sometimes I'm sitting at home thinking, man, if I don't do it now, I'm never going to get a chance to do it. Maybe I should do it.
Exactly.
I wrestle with it too, man. Honestly, there's days where I think, man, I did really good in my first Muay Thai fight. Like, I couldn't do any better. I took no damage. I won in under a minute. I TKO'd him. I did so good. So just why not do it again? And then I think to myself, but at the same time, you were stressed out of your balls for the last 2 weeks every night thinking about what you're about to do.
Fucking facts, man. Yeah, it's just,
you know what I mean?
It's strenuous, man. Mentally and physically.
Yeah, 100%. It's something that I think a lot of athletes go through, not just boxers, but not just combat sports, but any sport. When there's a lot riding on the line, you work so hard for this one thing, and it's a high pressure situation because one wrong move and all your training is gone. And I feel like you could relate to this because in business, in your job, you can make a series of wrong moves or a little bit of mistake here, a little bit of mistake there. You can go back and correct that. But in your sport, one slip up, like you say, one 30-second flurry that went too long, you're gassed.
Yeah.
And now you got 3 rounds of getting your ass beat.
Yeah, man. It's stressful. It's definitely a stressful situation. And some guys, maybe they're built differently where they handle that shit better. But it's definitely very stressful in the in the fights I've been, for sure.
Yeah. I mean, GSP, you know George St. Pierre?
Mm.
Yeah, he talks about how he could never sleep before his fights.
Yeah, true.
And he's the best of all time.
Mm.
And I feel like if he's allowed to be stressed and anxious, so are we.
Yeah, that's true.
So what do you think makes a good boxer? Or what it takes to become a pro? Like a Gennady Golovkin, a Canelo Alvarez, a Floyd, a Manny. What does it take?
Well, you definitely need some ability, right? Natural ability, if that's there. And then you can build on that foundation. You've got to be competitive, willing, not intimidated by physical conflict. And then from there, I feel like it's consistency. Consistency in all aspects of your life, and being able to compete often and staying at it. I'd say it's like a mix of having the talent and the spirit for it, and then just your commitment and consistency to the sport. That's what I've noticed for like most of the top guys. They just stay consistent. But obviously they've got some talent to build off.
Yeah.
It's just about how much you really give to the sport and the sacrifices you're willing to make.
When it comes to talent and spirit, I find this to be an interesting conversation because I think talent you're born with. Some people are born with just naturally faster reflexes. You can't train that. You can train a bit, but if you're born with a naturally fast reflex, you're just lucky.
Yeah.
And there's people who are like myself. I'm born with a natural disposition towards power. I'm explosive. I never did anything for this. I was born this way, and I trained obviously, but I didn't ask for it. I just developed it more. I had it in the beginning. But the spirit, do you think that you're born with?
I think some people might. No, I wouldn't say you're born with it. It's probably more so the environment you're brought up in. When I think about it, but maybe some people are born with it. What do you think? I definitely think you can build it. I definitely think you can build it up, but
I honestly used to think that you could be built. And to some extent, I still think it can be a little bit built. But I think there are just people who are born with this innate resistance to offense. Like they're not violent people, but if you push them, they have a natural tendency to naturally fight back. I feel like there's people who are born with this, and I would include myself in one of these because when I was young, like 13, 12, and I played rugby, for example, I would get to a point where I didn't even care about my own body. I would just run. I would run at the biggest guys. I didn't care. And it was kind of like this thing that would take over whenever I got hit or I got dumped or anything. Just something would click. And then I suddenly would go into this other place and don't care about my body. I don't care about getting hurt. I feel nothing. And I'll just make a beeline towards whoever. And I remember the first time I had my hard sparring session in Muay Thai. No, actually, I'll do two hard sparring sessions. The first hard sparring session I ever had was in MMA. And we were doing a kickboxing bout, but I'd only been training for a month. And I was pieced against this pro fighter, and he was just preparing for a fight. So this guy starts wailing on me, yeah? And I think to myself, holy shit, I'm getting bashed. I'm 19 years old. I've only been training for maybe 3-4 months. This guy's beating me. But there was a part of me, I still remember, that just kept saying, just keep fighting back. You're not going down. You're not going down. Fuck you. I'm not going down. And look, he bashed me for a whole minute. I was heavily concussed probably, but I never went down. Not
Mm.
once. I just went, fuck you, I'm not going down. So fast forward 6 years, I finished weightlifting. I am preparing for my first kickboxing bout, and my coach says to me, okay, I need to see how you hard spar. At this point, I had nothing. I just had like jab cross. Couldn't even kick properly. So we start hard sparring. He pops me in the face right away. Double jab, hard. And I start to feel, when you start getting those tears and you start getting you start feeling like a bitch because you're crying. So I get that feeling. But again, I just click and I just start ramming into him and I'm going. And he said to me after, he goes, what you showed me just there itself, even though you got no weapons, is you like to compete. You can compete. And that's rare. Not a lot of people will have to develop that, but you already have that.
Mm.
And I started noticing more about this when I would spar other people. I would see beginners come, I train other people now. And there are people who just come and they just have it. And then there are people who come who, even after a long period of time, the moment they break, and that's it. But there are some guys that are just so hard to break, no matter what.
Mm.
And they're like that from the very beginning. Yeah, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I think it makes sense. Like some people innately have it, for sure. Do you think it's possible to have it in certain situations? Like, or do you think it would show up in all aspects of your life?
I can only speak from my own personal experience,
Mm.
but my one seems to show up the most whenever I'm like getting kicked into the ground. Like my instinct for getting up after getting kicked to the ground is very high. No matter if it's business, if it's competing, nothing, anything. If you just put me in that situation, something happens to me where I just become like level 50, level 99, and I can just work tirelessly, fight tirelessly. It doesn't matter. But the moment you get me comfortable, I'm like, yeah, okay, I'm chill now. And then eventually I get kicked again.
Yeah, it's interesting. Because I definitely feel like that side of me only comes out in the ring.
Okay.
For sure. Like, and it depends as well, like I've definitely had situations where like, the spiral shit happens and I'm like I'm not as like competitive as I should be. But then there's also every other situation in the ring. Yeah, I'll be quite competitive. Like you land a hard shot on me, I'm like, fucking let's go, like it would pick up. And it definitely comes out in most situations. But I feel like in those situations that I've mentioned, like say in the finals of a tournament, I'd have those moments of like lapses, you know what I mean? And then through those lapses, I'll be able to break out a bit after a little bit, but then it might be a bit too late. But I definitely find it's in those kind of like high stress situations. But outside of that, pretty damn chill, to be honest.
Okay. What about at work? Do you ever get into combat situations at work? Not like fighting, but conflict.
Oh yeah, I mean, not so much like in actual business meetings itself, more so just like when I'm shit talking with my colleagues. And then we just have a lot of banter. And then sometimes we'll just, it'll be a little bit of a verbal sparring. But that's just office colleague banter and shit talk.
Yeah, that's just playful.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I'm talking actual hostile, hostile negotiations or hostile conflict between colleagues. It's awkward, it's tense. I'm talking about that situation.
I wouldn't say there's too much of that in my job at the moment. I've experienced it in some situations with like toxic colleagues and stuff, but no, not really like hard negotiations or anything like that. No.
Okay. What about in your personal life? Like, are you that mate who has those tense conversations with other mates?
When you say tense conversations, what do you mean?
Like tense conversation would be something like, "Oi, you being a fuckhead," like you call them
Oh,
out, and you're not afraid of having a bit of tension between your mates.
yeah, I'd definitely say I've definitely been that guy. So maybe it does come out in other situations.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's talk about coaching now. So I mean, we covered so much of your training and your fighting, but
Yeah.
moving into your coaching, which one do you enjoy more, competing or coaching?
I'd say I enjoy them both for different reasons. I obviously fighting and competing is like it's like a extreme level on the spectrum. What it brings you is like this really big level of thrill and excitement and fulfillment when it does pay off, right? Like say you win, your hard work pays off. But then coaching is different because it's fulfilling in a different way where you're helping someone else and you get to pass on knowledge and wisdom that from your own training, your own experiences to someone else and help them better themselves in their lives. That's more of a fulfilling aspect in a less selfish way. You know what I mean?
Mm.
So one's more selfish, which I like one for selfish reasons, and I like the other for non-selfish reasons.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd say my ideal situation would be to mix them both in my life.
Which
It's
you
hard
are.
to say. Yeah. I'd say I am. I could do it more,
Right.
but
But do
I
you
am.
think you can really term what you're doing competition-wise as selfish?
I mean, I'm doing it for myself, so
Yeah.
wouldn't it be considered selfish?
I don't know. So I don't think that we can ever do anything that is not selfish. Everything we do in some way is selfish and selfless. Like you compete because it gives you the thrill, gives you the benefit of competition, you develop as a person. That's great. And we can term that as selfish. But the selflessness of that part is there are people who look to you as inspiration because of what you did.
Mm.
So had you not done that, not only do you not give yourself the development, but there are people who may never step in the ring, but they looked at your fight and they thought, you know what? Aidan stepped in the ring. He's inspired me to just start boxing. I'm never going to step in the ring, but I want to start boxing because Aidan inspired me. I watched him do that thing.
Mm. Yeah, that's a good point.
You know what I mean? And at the same time, when you coach somebody else, like I can speak from experience, I do it out of selfish reasons, although these selfish reasons aren't negative. I like the feeling I get when I help someone.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, if I didn't have that feeling, I don't think I'd be doing it.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see that. I can see the sides of both of them
You know
in
what I mean?
both situations. Yeah.
Yeah. So when you coach someone now, like if somebody says to you, Aidan, like I'm a beginner, I want to fight. And they don't have any training in boxing. What's your approach with that?
I'd say, yeah, just show up to training often or consistently.
Yeah.
See how you develop, and then once you're ready for sparring, we'll throw you in there. But the first step is just, we'll see how you go with showing up consistently first, and then from there we can take it forward.
So you take a more measured approach. You don't just say to them, yeah, right away, yeah, you can fight.
Oh, no way.
Give me 6 weeks. Give me 6 weeks, and you're good to fight.
No way. But if, say, someone came to me with that situation, all I do is work basics with them. basics and fight simulation. That's it. If say someone came to me like, oh, I'm doing corporate fighter in like 12 weeks, this is all I can do, then
Yeah.
and I'm like, all right, well, if that is the cards we're dealt, then we will have to deal with it. But if it's just someone who came to me and they're like, yeah, I'd like to fight one day, complete beginner, then yeah, I'm definitely more measured for sure. I'm like, man, it takes a lot to get in the ring.
But would you, I mean, I would say you got balls for just coming in here and saying you want to jump in.
Yeah.
And
100%.
that's you generally don't get those guys, you know. Like you get guys who are more, oh, I'm not sure yet. But if you get that one guy who just comes in and says, yeah, I want to fight, you think, yeah, interesting.
Oh yeah, you definitely have balls, but it's more so like we'll see in the future, like if you mean it.
Yeah.
Because a lot of guys come in and say that, but then you don't see them after a long time.
Yeah, so I've got a question on that because I have my own theory. But you know those guys who've been training for a long time and they look great in training and they always say they're gonna have a fight, but it's been 10 years and not one thing's happened.
Like they've never fought before at all.
Never fought, but they look good in training. They're always talking about fighting. They want to take a fight soon, but you know, they're just for some reason every time it comes up, something always gets in the way. I've hurt my ankle, or I've got something coming up, or I need to focus on my fight. There's always something. What do you think about people who constantly say stuff like that? I'm gonna fight, but they never do it.
They probably just don't actually want to fight.
Yeah.
Like I think they just enjoy the lifestyle that it might bring, the feeling that they get from like say sparring or the sport itself and the training of the sport. But they probably don't, or maybe they do want to fight, but they just haven't overcome that fear of either failure or the unknown. And it's just something that they've really got to overcome and push themselves through. So they're probably just at that stage where they're like just at that point where they've got to push past this certain barrier to like get to the next stage out of their comfort zone.
How would you coach someone who technically has everything that you want to see, but just mentally and emotionally hasn't crossed that boundary yet?
Well, I'd ask them like, do you really want to fight? And I think you'd have to really take some time to reflect on if that's what you really want and ask yourself why you keep avoiding it, or why have you taken this long to actually have a fight when you say you want to, but your actions say otherwise. And from there, based on, if they can reflect and realize that it is what they want, and maybe it's just a demon that they haven't been able to overcome, then yeah, we can work towards that in many ways, whether it's sparring externally in different gyms, like different steps that you could take to try and get them as close towards that feeling of a fight to the point where they're ready, and then just taking that leap. But I mean, that was me for a while, Phil. I feel like you have to really get through it by just putting yourself in the fight and taking a bit of a leap into the unknown.
I feel like that's the only way.
Yeah.
Like a lot of people who talk about their demons and they have to overcome something first. It's like, I'm sorry to tell you this, but this thing you're trying to overcome is in the ring. You have to be in there to overcome this.
Yeah. And it's an interesting thing, man, because do you find that, say you overcome it once, you stepped in the ring, you've done it, came out great, you overcame it, but that's not the end of the battle with the demons. I feel like the demons are always still around. You've got to always do some kind of maintenance work or something to continue beating them.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I can use my own experiences, which is I've competed 3 times now. I had two kickboxing. I've had one Muay Thai. I forget I've fought sometimes. You know what I mean? People talk about fighting. Oh yeah, I did that. But it's like, if you ask me right now, Phil, how do you feel about stepping in the ring again? Having done what I've done, I still think to myself, holy shit. Like, oh my God, that still scares me.
Same.
You know, like, and
Same.
maybe this is really important for anyone who wants to compete to hear. It never really fully goes away. You just become more confident in yourself at that time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Would you like, what do you think about that? Like, how do you still have your demons before every fight, but then how has it changed the more fights you've had?
I'd say it you become you still have those demons, but you begin to realize that they're a lot more exaggerated in your head than in reality, right? So I'm got all this anxiety. You just realize that it's natural to have the anxiety before stepping in there, but at least you know what to expect now, and you've dealt with it before. It's nothing you can't deal with, and and then you're going to feel that anxiety and those demons, right? But you just become a little bit more at peace with the unknown, because it's not as much. Sure, it's still unknown, but at least you're more familiar with the environment now.
Yeah, and you also become more confident in your ability to deal with the unknown, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, which I feel like is what most people who are anxious need to develop. It's not finding out everything that happens. It's more, hey, do you have the ability to just go into somewhere that you don't know what's going on and have the confidence within yourself that you can solve any problem that comes your way? You know, I feel like that's more empowering for people than trying to do anxiety avoiding things.
Yeah.
Because one of the things I talk about a lot in my camp whenever the guys sign up is I use actually a boxing drill to illustrate how anxiety affects you. So I'm sure you do it in your own training with your guys, but I just put them against a wall or in front of someone and they can't move. And then I get one of the partners or it's myself and we just start punching at them slowly. And in the first time they do it, all they have to do is move their head left or right. We're only throwing straight punches, left, right. They do it for about 30 seconds. And then I ask them, how did you feel? And they say, well, I was anxious. If I was scared, I was nervous. And then I say, okay, next round is the same drill. But all I want you to do is focus on your breathing. Just breathe. See what happens. And most of them in real time, they start to notice that they can react better. They dodge better. And all they did was focus on their breathing. And I showed them and said, look, if you just breathe and you face the situation, you can respond really, really well. It's when you don't have control over your own body, when you start to panic, that's when things get worse.
Yeah. That makes sense. And that's definitely what I've experienced as well. Every time I spar or whenever I'm nervous to jump in the ring, when I just focus on my breathing, I definitely find that I don't gas out as quick, of course, and I just do a lot better.
Yeah, for sure. What have you seen as part of transformations in your own clients when you teach them boxing? Like, I'm talking mentally.
So they definitely become more confident in their ability to be able to defend themselves. Building that technique and progressing towards learning and putting them all together. I think that they really enjoy. But yeah, just getting to that level. Like I've had a few clients that eventually become like they get to the level where they spar pretty often, and it's definitely different. Like the people who do get to that level, I felt like they've always wanted to spar and always wanted to fight. But I've also had clients who don't really get to that point. They just want to do it for self-defense and fitness. But overall, I noticed just more confidence in both parties, right? They both know how to punch, how to throw punches, and I try and make it as combat minded as possible, right? Like every technique, I try and explain why you do this, in what situation you might use it in. And yeah, I definitely find that they just become, just more ready to take on any unknown situation.
Yeah, I found that too with anyone I teach any level of combat with. Why do you think combat sports in general have such a empowering effect on people, but is viewed so negatively by most people?
I don't know. I think at a surface level, to any casual person viewing in, say you watch like a UFC fight on TV, it looks very violent, right? Just because they're bleeding, hurting each other, person's knocked out, they'll just keep going until the breath stops. They might see it as barbaric in that sense. And I think it's just seeing stuff like that where they're just like, oh no, like it's too violent for me. But I feel like when you're actually deep in it and like you train every day, you don't even have to fight. You're just in that disciplined lifestyle. It brings you so much more than just becoming a barbarian. Like you get disciplined, you get confidence, knowing that you could most likely handle yourself in an altercation on the street. I'd say like it gives you a pretty strong chance of being able to deal with any conflict situation better than if you weren't trained.
100%.
Yeah, and then you're stronger physically and mentally from going through the hard workouts and training that combat sports puts you through. Because as I said before, I feel like no other forms of cardio really come close to what combat sports cardio brings you. And yeah, and then it's just you could approach it like a martial artist, where it's just a continual journey of self-improvement. That's how I see it. It's just all benefit.
Yeah, I think you have a very eloquent way of viewing it, for sure. It's definitely everything is it's not just one thing. It's definitely a whole variety of things. And one of the things I've been really thinking about a lot is the fact that most combat sports make you come to peace with your own aggression, but also how to deal with aggression from others.
Yeah.
And there's something about all the guys I work with, even the women, when you tell them that aggression is okay, like you're allowed to be aggressive in here, I want you to hit hard, I want you to make noise, I want you to do all these things, I want you to come at me hard, because if you don't, I can't sharpen my axe. Something happens to them. And they realize, oh my God, I can really do some damage. I can really be something if I allow myself to. But then they never do, like it's so controlled because you're in the right environment. And I feel like there's something to explore there for a lot of people who feel like they're not confident, or they're lacking somewhere, or they're just anxious. Like, where's your aggression?
Mm.
Like, where do you put it? Do you just put it away somewhere? You never have it? In a boxing gym, there's nothing about it that's not aggressive.
So you're saying like the people who don't let it out in a combat situation or combat sports gym, you think maybe it seeps out elsewhere in their life?
Or they just don't even have the ability to harness it.
Yeah.
You know, I think in combat sports, I mean, you can have aggression in other sports. Like, I'll use weightlifting as an example. You can be aggressive all you want in weightlifting or powerlifting, if you want to call that a sport. I'm joking, guys. I'm joking. Relax. If you're listening, relax, guys. But I make that comment because you can be aggressive when you lift, but the aggression's not coming back at you.
Mm.
Whereas in any other combat sport, jiu-jitsu included, you can have a really hard training session against someone who's real aggressive, roughing you up, hitting you, choking you, whatever. If you don't have some level of aggression to meet that back, you're going to get steamrolled. And I feel like it's when you have the ability to turn it on and turn it off.
Mm.
And to see, sometimes I'm sure you would have sparred people who are not at your level, and you turn up the heat and you see how much fear you're causing someone else and how much they're really scared to exchange with you. You have to pull that back, or else you're not going to hurt them, but you have to pull that back.
Mm.
So it's like you have this dial of aggression. You can turn it down, you can turn it up, turn it down, turn it up. And when you need to, you can turn it up.
Mm.
I think that having that ability to face aggression and like not be afraid of it because you have your own, I think that really changes people.
Yeah, that's a good point. Being able to practice that.
Exactly. It's
Yeah.
like the most real thing, because somebody being aggressive to what I'm sure you've had those guys who are real aggressive
Mm.
and they're like coming at you for a minute straight, just wailing punches, and you stay calm and you weather the storm, and then you are able to fight back and meet the force with your own aggression.
Mm.
Like having that understanding and experience, it changes how you view yourself, but also how you will deal with other situations.
Yeah, it definitely keeps you more calm just in any other situation in life, I'd say.
Yeah, 100%. Would you say that you're an aggressive fighter when you fight?
Um, I've had a handful of fights, and I'd say in about half of them I've been pretty aggressive, and half of them I've been more technical. I'd say in the latest few fights, I was fairly aggressive for sure, because it was probably the hardest I've worked for a preparation towards a fight. So yeah, I was pretty aggressive in the last few fights that I had this year.
How do you control that side of yourself? Like even when you're sparring,
Mm.
sometimes you can feel the tickers ticking over a bit more, and you probably shouldn't be. How do you pull yourself back?
It depends. So usually I try and start fairly light and technical, and say I'm not in a fight camp, then I'll see how they respond, and then I'll try and like I'll match the level that they'll bring. But if I'm in a fight camp, then obviously I've got to get the hard sparring in, so I'll be going hard. But yeah, if say I'm going up against someone who's not as experienced as me, and the intensity goes up, and I'm pick it up a little bit to the point where, yeah, maybe like I've hurt them or something, then I'll really like kind of step back and chill just a little bit. I just find that feel like I might be better at doing that than most people, but at the same time, my gym doesn't like everyone's pretty friendly. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. It's just like an internal like self control. Like oh, okay, stop. So you're not trying to like knock him out or anything.
Have you ever lost control?
Yeah, definitely.
What happened?
Um, it would just like it would just be really intent. Like the level would keep picking up, picking up, picking up, and usually it's against people that we're of like similar experience or like skill level, and then just to the point where I just like fucking, I'd just be like grunting like really trying to hurt them,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, and then like it comes to the point where when I get to that point, and then like say I've thrown some wild shots that I've like missed to the point where it's gotten me like out of like my position and technique, that's when I'd kind of wake up and be like, oh fuck, like I'm losing control of the aggression a little bit, and then I'll like come back to like more control again.
Yeah.
Still aggressive, but still trying to maintain control.
It's that fine balance, hey, between controlled aggression. Like you have to really sit in the middle too much and you gas or you hurt someone unintentionally. Too little and you actually can't compete.
Yeah, exactly. It's like finding that fine balance, continually trying to maintain that. And that's a good thing as well about sparring and just practicing combat sports in general, is being able to practice finding that balance.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. I think that's one of the greatest benefits of combat sports. It's probably the only sport I can think of. And I include all forms of combat, like even wrestling, grappling, anything. Only time you will get punished really hard if you go too aggressive. Like if you hurt the partner, somebody's going to hurt you back. Like, there's gym etiquette. Sometimes if you get into the sparring situation and you bash a newbie and coach sees, they're going to pair you up against somebody who's going to bash you.
Yeah.
And that's on you.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's the beautiful thing about martial arts. There's like a immediate feedback. You're going to get punished if you decide to be an idiot.
Yeah, and that's why I recommend everyone should do some sort of combat sports, because it'll humble you. It'll humble you in some kind of way if you're not already humble.
Yeah. Well, what for you was the most humbling when you first started boxing?
Definitely getting put up against more experienced fighters in the gym to spar, and yeah, and getting bashed.
Yeah.
Yeah, just getting bashed in the gym, and then that just humbles you. And then obviously you might have your moments too, and it teaches you to stay humble, because you can either one day be the hammer or be the nail.
100%. I think this is one of the biggest misconceptions about combat people is that they're cocky, they're dangerous, they're arrogant. Man, most combat people I've ever met, some of the nicest people
Yeah,
I've ever met. They're just so friendly. They're not egotistical. Some are, don't get me wrong. But for the most part, most of these guys are very friendly. They don't want drama because they know how bad it can be if you just, lose your shit and somebody else decides to just bash you because you're being an asshole.
yeah, 100%, man. Usually most combat people that I know are pretty calm, pretty chill, pretty respectful
Yeah.
people.
Yeah. Who do you think out of all the combat disciplines, okay, we're going to ruffle some feathers now, are the most arrogant? If we had to put someone on.
uh, I don't know, man. That's a hard one. Like,
Political. He's being political, this one.
no, I'm just trying to think, like, the most arrogant. I mean, I've definitely seen arrogant people of every sport.
Yeah.
Like, I know some arrogant boxers for sure. Um, Maybe more so in martial arts.
Oh, you read my mind. I was just about to say that.
Yeah, because they haven't had as much combat experience or sparring in their kind of training. And then they're like, our style's superior. Our style's the best, but it's never been tested. They've never been humbled. Yeah, that's my experience with a lot of martial arts practitioners.
Yep. Yep. I agree. I think I mean, I'm not trying to bag all martial arts. I can only mention the ones that I have had some experience with. But like Taekwondo, I'm not saying Taekwondo is bad, by the way. I'm not saying all Taekwondo people are arrogant, but I've met a few Taekwondo people who I have traded, I would say, some light sparring with them. And I don't think they control themselves nearly as well as they think they do.
Right.
You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Like you start light, you start real easy. It's kickboxing rules, but they're throwing fast spinning back kicks and they're just throwing shit at you. And you're like, whoa, relax. You know, whoa, relax.
Yeah.
And when you watch them react to punches and they're all over the place, and you just know, like, if this was full speed, yes, you would kick me really hard. I get that. But at the same time, I just know you're not going to react well to any punches. So I'm not saying that your art is bad. I'm saying open your mind and realize that there's more to combat than just your art.
Yeah, I agree. I've definitely found that with martial arts. That's why, that's kind of also why I stopped in the martial arts.
Yeah. I mean, I even sometimes, I'm not having a go at my dad, but my dad I've shown some of the shit I've done with my dad, like just my fighting footage. And sometimes he makes a comment like, oh, Chinese martial arts, you know, we wouldn't allow this because we got this. And I would look at him and say, you know what? I would love to see that. I'm telling you, half of this crane shit doesn't work, man. I'm telling you, it doesn't work, man. I'm telling you, there's a science to this game, and there's a reason why in MMA there's a few disciplines that really work, because at full speed, what works is jab, cross, hook, elbow, knee, kick, whatever. None of this fucking turning underneath the arm and hit the armpit. None of that's gonna work.
Like, it's not super efficient, hey?
No.
You know what I'm curious though of, and what I kind of believe as well. Do you think back in the old days when martial arts were, you know, the main thing, saying like ancient China, do you think it was effective back then? Surely, like there's some level of effectiveness at that point. Do you think like at its raw state back then, it would have been deadly? Or do you
I still think it's deadly. I still think a lot of traditional martial arts is deadly. I would just say that against other trained people, it's not that effective. I think against like general population, people who've never trained before, never fought before, nothing, there's always a little bit of effectiveness, regardless of what discipline you're from. If you've trained some level of combat, it's always going to help. But I think if we had to look at history, maybe if they had their own fighting contests, it would have been maybe. But if you look at wartime, man, they were using swords and like fucking arrows and stuff. Like, no martial art beats an arrow. You know, no martial art beats a bullet. Nothing beats a bullet.
Yeah.
Even the armor didn't beat a bullet. You know, so like I'm not I think the art itself is there were some moves that worked, but I also think that you know, there's always like the tiger, there's the tiger one, there's the mantis, there's the Shaolin, there's all this shit. And sometimes I feel like it's a creation of a book or like a form that's not necessarily useful in combat, but is like rounds out my curriculum.
Right. Right. Like creating it just for the sake of rounding
Creation.
up the curriculum.
Yeah, like I've created it for the sake of creation.
Mm.
Yeah, you know, even Bruce Lee, who came from Wing Chun, said Jukundo is not even a martial art. It's just take whatever works and use it.
Yeah.
He
And I
used
agree with that.
boxing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know, man. I think the whole history behind it is cool, but the utility of the arts, it's hard to say. If it was very, very, very useful, we would have seen more of it by now. We would have seen like Chinese or traditional people come out and do MMA or whatever. And it doesn't look good on YouTube when there's like a fat master who's like he'll kill you with 2 shots, gets taken down and get his ass pounded. It doesn't look good.
Yeah. It's crazy because some of those practitioners can be pretty delusional, you know.
Yeah.
And that's what I didn't like about it. It's like it's a pride.
You're thinking about someone. You're thinking about someone right now. I know you are.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
We there was this one time where me and my dad went. He was in Malaysia, I think. Yeah, it was in Malaysia. He met up with like these other like Tai Chi Kung Fu masters from like that he knew from like Facebook or something. And it was the grandmaster was literally like one of those masters that are like, I'm transferring energy through your system, and that is like that's going to paralyze you to the point where you're not going to be able to fight, you know, shit like that. And then he'll do it on a student, and then his student will be like he'll react, right, and like act like he's getting hurt, and then he'll try it on me. I'm just like, what's happening right now? This is bullshit. Like,
yeah.
This is bullshit. And then they would say shit like, oh yeah, like if I did this chi strike through to your head, it would fry your brain. Just shit like that, where I'm just like, this is bullshit. It's all bullshit. And I remember because like back then I was just really into punching the bag a lot, practicing punching the bag with, you know, Wing Chun strikes. They're like, okay, punch me, show me, you know, show you how, like, show us how you can do it. And then I like gave a really solid punch and like, oh, that's pretty good. So yeah, it was pretty funny, but it's just like to have actually met those type of delusional masters before, just kind of wild. It was just kind of wild to me. I feel like it's just crazy that they.
Yeah. Well, what's wild is also that they're students.
Their students,
like their students are like all in on it. But see, the guy he did it on, the student who was like, I don't think they're faking. You know what I mean? Like sometimes I watch his videos and I look at it and I think there's no way that guy's faking. It looks real for him. So like, what's happening here?
Maybe they just believe it themselves.
Yeah. Yeah, like I remember there's one, you know, the needles, you know, you can't even reach me. I'll hit you with my chi needles with my fingers.
Yeah.
Those ones. I look at those and I look at the students sometimes and I think, I know this would never work on me, but at the same time, it looks really real on you. So it's kind of like, you know, hypnosis. When you see those people just go to sleep and you think to yourself, there's no way that's going to work on me.
Yeah.
So like, I think to myself, what's going on here? I want to do it.
Must be brainwashed to some extent.
Yeah, it's crazy, bro. Anyway, Aidan, it was a great chat, man. I just have one last question for you. 2 last questions. what's your favorite punch? And who's your favorite boxer or combat athlete currently?
Okay, my favorite punch would be the left rip to the body,
Okay.
body shot.
Okay.
Just enjoy that. It's just so satisfying when you do land it, and then also just smashing the bag with it. I love it. Favorite combat athlete, I'd say, would be Tim Zhu at the
Oh,
moment.
local.
Yeah, the local.
Mm.
And of course, maybe Inoue is on there too.
He's a demon, that guy.
Yeah, Asian represent, man.
Yeah, he's a demon. The way he lands his shots on people looks like a hammer.
Yeah, it's awesome. So technical, but then also so sharp and deadly.
Yeah, I like watching him fight. I like his highlight reels because he's not a backward fighter. He's very in your face. Doesn't take his he doesn't like he's always there. Let's just put it that way.
And he's cerebral. I really like that as well. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Aidan, man, I gotta come train with you sometime because I'm a southpaw and I really want to drop someone with a body shot, but I'm a southpaw, so I don't have that access to that deliver on the left side. So I got to learn how to use my left cross or something to get a body TKO.
Oh yeah, man. Let's do it. We got to line it up.
Yeah, sounds good, brother. Thanks for joining me today, man.
Thanks for having me.
We'll have you back on the podcast some other time as well after your next fight, hopefully.
Oh yeah, for sure, man. Anytime. Well, that means I did all right. So I'm
you
happy.
did well, man. You did very well.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely out of my comfort zone, but good experience, man. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Aidan.
Thanks, bro. See ya.